Hello everyone and welcome to DC Central, and in today's video we're going to be going over the theory that the Red Death is going to be the villain and the big bad for The Flash Season 6, so let's discuss. Isn't that crazy that we're already talking about The Flash Season 6 and we're not even halfway through The Flash Season 5? Well, I guess we're just over halfway through, but we're already talking about Season 6 and who the big bad of the next season is going to be. However, the reason why we're talking about this is because in the most recent episode of The Flash, it was actually name dropped that the Red Death is eventually a villain who Team Flash face at some point in the future. Now, this is something that the shows like to do to potentially tease the next season's big bad. This is what they do. Like The Flash did this before in Season 3, they name dropped DeVoe, and he was eventually the main villain of Season 4, and even Arrow's done this in Season 3 when they name dropped Damian Dark, and he became the main villain of Season 4 of that. So there's history to this, they've done this before, and in episode 12 of Season 5 they did name drop the Red Death. So who is the Red Death? Well, the Red Death is actually a villainous version of Batman from the DC Comics universe. He is a member of the Dark Knights, who are a group of vigilantes from the Dark Multiverse whose goal is to plunge the central DC multiverse into darkness. So this is a evil version of Batman from Earth 52, or at least the Dark Multiverse's version of Earth 52. I don't know if you're keeping up with that or not, it is pretty complicated, but he is eventually basically sick of the Flash running around and not basically sharing the Speed Force, so he eventually uses a bunch of weapons from the Rogues and actually knocks the Flash out, ties him to the Batmobile, and uses that to drive him and the Flash into the Speed Force, which is pretty crazy. And he takes the Speed Force away from Barry Allen and becomes this sort of Batman Flash crossover type of character. And this is a really interesting character who, if they're going to do this on the show, this is going to be absolutely crazy. So of course, with the Red Death being a speedster, that means for Season 6 we would be getting another speedster villain. We'd be returning to speedster villains. Obviously the Flash has tried to steer away from speedster villains as of the past couple of seasons, you know, with DeVoe in Season 4 and currently Cicada in Season 5. But I think Season 6 seems like a good and appropriate place to return to the idea of doing a speedster villain. And if they're going to do something really fun and unique and interesting like the Red Death, I don't see why fans would be too cheesed off about that, and especially because fans have seemed to be clamoring, especially after the disappointment and underwhelming nature of Cicada. People have been really clamoring for a really good speedster villain to be full frontal in the Flash. Like, people are really hoping Reverse Flash is going to come into the spotlight for this season. I think that's unlikely, but you know, who knows? Season 6 we could be seeing the Red Death. Now, we do have to address the elephant in the room. Obviously, if you were paying attention before, I did mention that the identity of the Red Death is actually Bruce Wayne. That is, of course, Batman. So, obviously, in The Flash and in this universe, in the Arrowverse, they could not do Bruce Wayne, because we're never going to see Bruce Wayne in this universe, even though he has been officially name-dropped, and we do know that Batman exists in this universe as of the Elseworlds crossover, and with the addition of the Batwoman TV series coming soon, who knows, maybe eventually we could see Batman in this universe, who knows. But as it stands right now, and by the time The Flash Season 6 eventually rolls around, we're just not going to see Bruce Wayne under the mask of the Red Death in the show. It's just not going to be the case. So it's definitely not going to be Bruce Wayne, but who could be under that mask? My top choice, and what would be awesome to see happen, and this won't happen, I'm not saying this is going to happen, like, I'm 100% certain that this won't happen, but given the fact that Oliver Queen is the Arrowverse's version of Bruce Wayne, it would make a lot of sense if we actually saw Stephen Amell as Oliver Queen under that mask. Now, granted, like I say, this isn't going to happen because by the time The Flash Season 6 rolls around, we will also have Arrow Season 8 going on, so, you know, Stephen Amell and Oliver Queen will be doing that. Stephen Amell won't possibly have the time to be on The Flash and Arrow at the same time in pretty prominent positions. Now, if Arrow was no longer on TV, if Arrow finished, you know, this season or last season or whatever, I feel like this may have been a legit possibility to give Stephen Amell some more work, but given the fact that Arrow will still be kicking around, I don't see this happening, although it makes a lot of sense and it would definitely be cool to see, and I would love to see Stephen Amell play the main villain of The Flash. Like, that would be really cool. I just don't see this happening at all. Like, it's just so unlikely, it's unreal. What is a lot more likely, however, is that the identity of the Red Death is going to be a multiversal version of another past character. So I feel like Eddie Thorne, played by Rick Cosner, is a really good choice. I think we could see him. Obviously, fans have been clamoring for Eddie to come back for a very long time, and I feel like this is the perfect opportunity to do so. Eddie was a big contender for Savitar back in Season 3, and it seems like that this could be another good opportunity for fan speculation for Eddie to come back. So it could be Eddie. I think that'd be a good choice. Obviously, it'd be cool. We could see how Iris would kind of interact with that character and how that would happen. And just, you know, Eddie being the one who sacrificed himself at the end of Season 1 to save the day to come back as a villain would be a really interesting story. However, I don't think they're going to go with Eddie. I just don't see it myself. And personally, I feel like if they're going to ever reuse Eddie as a villain, it'd be a lot more likely to be with the character of Cobalt Blue, who I think they will eventually do in the future. I think it'd be really cool if we saw Robbie Amell come back as the Earth 52 Ronnie Raymond. I think this would be a really cool choice. Like, if they wanted to make this version of the Red Death a multiversal character, you know, of a past character, I feel like Ronnie Raymond is the best choice. Ronnie Raymond was actually a pretty big contender for Savitar as well, especially in the back half of the season. I feel like bringing back Robbie Amell would be really awesome for this. I would love to see him come back as like a speedster villain, because he never really got his due as a character. When he was Firestorm, he didn't last very long, and we got to see him again in Season 3, and also he did show up in Season 2 as Deathstorm, you know, the Earth 2 Firestorm, and we did get to see him as well in the Season 3 Speed Force episode. But he's never had his due, and I do feel a bit bad for him, and I would love to see him get a big role like this, you know, the big villain role of the season. And again, you could have Caitlyn tied into that, you could have Barry tied into that, you could maybe even bring back Jax, see how that's, you know, you could like bring back Jax for a little bit, maybe bring back Jax as a series regular for this one season, or a recurring role. There's so many cool opportunities you could get for bringing back this character, and I would love to see that. And I feel like Ronnie Raymond is the best choice they have currently on their hands. What is equally as likely, however, is that they will introduce a brand new character in Season 6 who just comes into the fold, and that character will end up being, you know, the Red Death, kind of like what they did with Zoom and Hunter Zolomon in Season 2, or the, you know, the fake Jay Garrick. You know, he came into the season and in Season 2 and he ended up being Zoom, so, you know, I feel like they could do something like that. That's very, very likely too. Overall, I'm not going to lie, this tease of the Red Death is really exciting to me. I think this is an awesome idea, and I can't wait to see what they do with him, and if they eventually do him. I mean, like I say, this is something the shows like to do to tease their next big villain, is to name drop them in the season before. So I feel like there is a definite possibility, even if it's not Season 6, could be Season 7, who knows. But I feel like, you know, there is a very high possibility now at this point that we will see the Red Death as the big bad next season. Especially, keep your ears out for any more name drops. Like I say, in Season 3 we got 2 for DeVoe. We got 1 around this time in Season 3, and we also got 1 in the season finale. So, you know, keep your ears out for another name drop of the Red Death. If we get that, then I'm going to be pretty much 90% positive that we are going to be seeing him as the big bad for Season 6. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you give it a like, and if you want to see more DC content, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss an upload, and hope to see you guys again next time.